In this video, we'll be discussing understanding the galvanic current. For some people, just the word electricity strikes the fear of God in their very heart, and their brain shuts down and they don't want anything to do with it. Because what we don't understand, we have a tendency to push to the back, and we may think that it's too difficult to understand because electricity, most of us have a basic understanding. If you step in a puddle of water, plug something in and turn it off, you're going to get hurt. And so when we're thinking of electrical appliances that we use in skincare, we have a tendency to hold that thought. But the galvanic current isn't like that. There is no one who is afraid to take a battery and hold it between their fingers. Why? Because there's no electrical sensation for you. The smooth end of the battery is the negative, and the end that has the little nipple is the positive. And then, depending on how many batteries your appliance needs, you load them into the slot, never thinking that you're going to get a shock, because you're not. Nobody is afraid to take 5 batteries and stick them into an appliance, one going one way, one going the other, so that you get that continual flow of electrical current so that the appliance will work. Based on that concept, you shouldn't be afraid of the galvanic current either, because it's the same thing. It's a battery type current. When you look at your car battery, and I think all of us are familiar with our car battery, you have a red terminal, which represents the positive cord. You have a black terminal, which represents the negative. So if you need a jump, you take the cables, you attach red to red, black to black, turn on the car. The person who's helping you turns on their car. Then you turn on your car, and the electricity flows into your battery, and you can start your car. Nobody's afraid to do that. So when you understand that the galvanic current is basically that simple of a concept, we're going to take the fear of how to use it, hopefully, and lay it to rest. Now, when you're working in salons, the electrical appliances, the galvanic currents, the machines are not created equal. I mean, equally in the fact of their effect, acid, alkaline, yes, but the way they look and the way they're put together are completely different. So I'm going to suggest that you Google galvanic facial machines, and when the screen opens, you go to the pictures of galvanic machines, and you're going to see a plethora of machines that are available for purchase, and they don't all look the same. Some of them use just white cords, okay, like this little guy right here. If I can get him out. These are the white cords that go with the machine that you see behind me. And these are the electrodes that come with that machine. Now, even if they were plugged in, and I'm touching this because these two are not in contact with me, there's no electrical current. I have to be holding both of these for there to be a current to go from A to B. This has to have somewhere to go. It's not like the alternating current that regulates your lights, or even that's in that machine that turns it on. Inside that machine, there's little black boxes very similar to your little charging things for your cell phone or for your child's guitar. The little black box you plug into the wall, and then you put the jack into the instrument, and the little black box that's in the wall changes the alternating current to direct current, which is a battery, And that's how we charge our phones, and that's how we use all of our appliances that use the concept of the galvanic current. And nobody is afraid to plug in their cell phone. You're not afraid to charge your phone, and yet you're using electricity. You're still coming in contact with it. So the main thing that I want to hopefully instill in your mind is that you have nothing to fear from this current. Okay, one thing. Okay, when you take the battery and you touch it to your tongue, that's not a nice feeling. You feel that tingling feeling, and so I go, whoa. Okay, if you turn the rheostat, like the volume switch on a radio, if you turn that up, your client is going to feel that tingly feeling, and that's not pleasant, and it's not necessary. You need very little power coming from that machine. The lowest setting on that dial is all you need to get the benefit of the electrical current, and there is no physical sensation involved. Okay, so as we look at the benefits and we look at the way our machine works, and yes, I'm looking at some notes because I don't have my blackboard behind me. We're going to take a look at the benefit, and I'm not going to call it a benefit because I'm going to call it an effect. An effect is something that happens. Okay, when I turn the radio on too loud, the effect is I need to plug my ears. Okay, so when I'm looking at the effect of the galvanic, I have to choose whether I'm using my positive current or my negative current. Now, if you're looking at the machines on Google, you'll see some of them have the traditional red cord, black cord. Red cord in red hole, black hole in black hole. This is not brain surgery. My machine that you see back here is archaic in the fact that it has just a positive jack and a negative jack. And if I want to change from positive to negative, I literally have to remove the jacks from the hole, switch them out, and plug them in. So now, if you get kind of confused as to, is this positive? Is this negative? I'm not sure I understand. Then you're going to do the simple test for polarity. You should have pH papers. You should always have them. They're on Amazon for very little, $3.95 for 2 packs. And they come in kind of like remember 100 years ago before we had lighters, you had the little matchbox, the little things that you could light the match, so you could light your cigarette. I think we vape now. I don't think we go there that much with that type of thing anymore. But they used to come that way. So when I'm looking at my electrodes and I'm not sure, I can take a piece of my paper, my pH paper, I wet the paper, I put the electrodes on the paper, the positive end will turn red and the negative end will turn black. Now, the test for polarity used to be in the textbooks. I had to laugh because one of the students was telling me, oh, but Miss Sue, what they do is when I ask a teacher, they say, oh, go read your book. So it's my experience when a teacher says, go read your book, they don't know the answer to the question that you just asked. And rather than saying, that's a good question, let me figure it out and I'll get back to you, they say, go read your book. And I found it very interesting that this new aesthetics textbook, when you look at the test for polarity, it says, go ask your teacher. So does that mean, if I'm using the same logic, does that mean the textbook people who wrote the book don't know the answer either anymore? Has this simple test gotten kind of thrown to the side when it's kind of important that you understand your electrical tools? So remember, for testing for polarity is very easy. pH papers, dampen them, the 2 electrodes on the paper, the positive will turn red, the negative will turn blue, and that way you'll know. Now, the client always holds this electrode. Okay, now this electrode is going to be wrapped in a piece of wet cotton, because water is a conductor of electricity. And your client can either hold it in her hand, which is not my method of preference. My method of preference is you slide it under her shoulder, because if the client is holding it, and hopefully your treatments are so restful, she goes to sleep. And when she goes to sleep, her hand relaxes, and we may lose some contact, which means the electrical current isn't getting into her skin, isn't doing its job. And whatever we did is not effective. Now, you're not going to hurt her first, that's for sure. You're not going to hurt the client. You know, nobody's ever died of not having an electrical treatment. So, and they're not going to die when you do this, well, unless they have a pacemaker. Remember, a pacemaker is a battery-operated appliance put in your chest to regulate your heartbeat, and runs on positive, negative current, because your body does too. So clients who are contraindicated to electricity are the ones with heart conditions, because heart medications and such like that regulate the electrical current in your body, and this would definitely jack that up. Okay, so anybody who's on any type of heart medication is contraindicated, and you have to stick with your LED lights for treatment for them. But now back to my client always holding this, or you slide it under their shoulder, which is my preference, because when she goes to sleep, she's totally relaxed. I'm even going to get better contact, so that's not going to be an issue. So now my client is holding this electrode, and now my choice is to use either this one or this one. Now the roller, as you can see, covers quite a large area, okay, and I can use it and my forehead, not a problem. But this little guy here is going to get into the side of the nose, because we get blackheads, comedones, in here, and this is the only tool that actually can go in here. And then sometimes they get little micro blackheads in this eye area, and so you'll want to go over them, because the roller, what I do with the roller, isn't going to get close enough, and it's not going to have enough direct contact. I can put this little dude, you know, right here where I explicitly want, and I can do the nose a little more effectively, and I can definitely get between my eyebrows better with this little guy. And then there are some people who actually get comedones in their ear, and if that's the case, this little jewel goes in and actually can soften the area where this blackhead is. Some people get them behind their ears. So you have your roller, and I don't know what his name is, but he's a little ball, and you, the technician, are going to determine which tool that you choose to use depending on the area that you're going to do your extractions. Now, here's the key. Before I can extract, I need to soften the skin. I need to cause the pores to dilate just a little bit, okay? I need the hardened mass of sebum to melt, liquefy, and dissolve. And this is done with a negative ionic charge. A lot of companies have their own name for their disincrustation lotion, but disincrustation lotion is a generic term used for everything by every company who creates. Dermalogica, for instance, calls theirs scaling fluid. Christine Valmet called hers Lotion X. So every manufacturer is going to have a name for their disincrustation lotion, but they're always negatively charged, because the negative charge is what helps soften the skin and open the pores. The galvanic intensifies that effect. The disincrustation lotion has a pH between 8 if you have dry skin, up to 10 max if you have oily skin. You can't exceed a pH of 10. Okay, and so just having that pH of 10 on my face is going to elevate the pH of my skin. It's going to cause the pores to open, the skin to relax, and it's going to soften the hardened mass of sebum. The galvanic current intensifies that effect and speeds it up. So what I'm going to get when I'm using my galvanic is, because my client, I have to now make sure that her electrode is positively charged, that it's in the positive jack, okay? And then now this one, these two that I'm going to use, will be negatively charged. Now, you know, when you were kids, everybody played with magnets, and they know a negative and a positive, they stick together. That's what keeps a magnet on your refrigerator, the fact that it's a negative and a positive. And we all know that two negatives repel each other. Two positives repel each other. So I have a negative product on the skin. I need the roller to be negatively charged. So the client will be holding a positive charge, and you will be using the negative, and the negative pushes the disincrustation lotion down into the pore, which is located in the dermis. It's the only way to get product into the dermis is with this tool. Everything else will just sit on the surface and only affect the first few layers of the epidermis. So if the blackheads are superficial, it'll work fine. But if they're more deep-seated and they've been there a while, we're not going to get them out that easily. So negative solution, negative electrode. Negative pushes negative. Positive that I'm holding pulls it into the skin. Now, the downside is that everything in my body is going to become softened because the electricity is going through my whole body. It's not just sitting right here. Okay, it's traveling through my body over here. This has to go somewhere. This current has to go over to here. So if I have it under her back, it's going all through here to the back side of me. So it has the potential to release the secretions and excretions of the endocrine system. For instance, if you're diabetic, it could release insulin. That could pose a problem, couldn't it? Okay, it could also cause ovulation. It could also dilate the cervix. Remember, it's opening. It's making the skin soft, and it's causing an expansion. So I could dilate the cervix. I could bring on a miscarriage. Okay, my IUD, my intrauterine device, to help keep me from conceiving will be compromised, and the client could conceive. Like, ask me how I know that one. Okay, because doing this, it actually happened. So when you're using your galvanic, you have your list of benefits. It's alkaline. Okay, it will melt, liquefy, and dissolve the hardened mass of sebum. Now it's like melting the water in my frozen ice cube tray. It's hard to get a frozen cube out, but if it's gone back to its liquid form, it runs out. So the galvanic intensifies the effect of your disincrustation lotion, and as it's pushing it into the pore, it's actually melting, liquefying, and dissolving the hardened mass of sebum that you want to come in and extract. So it's an invaluable tool for extractions. It makes your job so much easier. It's so much more effective. Now, the methods that I choose for extractions, are discussed in another video, but you can wrap your fingers in cotton. You can use Q-tips, or you can use your skin scrubber. The method that you choose to use for removing the clog in the pore, that's your choice. And you'll use the tools that you're comfortable with. But once again, this enhances the disincrustation lotion and makes your job that much easier. You can get much more done that way. Now, those are the effects. So once I have done my extractions, I need to rinse. I don't just want to take cotton swabs and wipe it. It will help if that's all you've got, but you're better off to use your atomizer and rinse the product off the skin. There's nobody in this within the sound of my voice that gets in the shower, lathers up, turns the water off and takes a wet washcloth and wipes the soap off. Really? Why would you do that to the delicate skin of your face? Even when you get up in the morning, you lean over the sink, you wash your face, and you rinse the water off. You don't take a sponge and wipe your cleanser off. So whenever you're removing product, if it's at all possible, you need to rinse it off. Simply taking a piece of cotton, and some of the textbooks tell you to put toner on it. Well, the toner is a chemical. So I already have a chemical on my face. I'm putting another chemical on top of that chemical. If my client has sensitive skin, I can irritate her skin. And then when I go to hydrate her, she's going to say, oh, that product made my skin tingle. And I go, yeah, probably wasn't the product that made your skin tingle. It's probably the fact that you have chemical reactions going on because you don't keep your face rinsed clean while you're doing product A to product B to product C. The other thing that we have going on now that we've removed the lotion from the face, we now have to, if we're just doing, let's say we're just doing a standalone extractions. Let's say that somebody came in and she goes, I don't have time for anything, but I need this stuff taken out of my face. Can you do some extractions? That's a standalone service. So now I would spritz the face with my antiseptic toner. Then I would switch out my tool here, okay? And remember that my client is still holding this. But now I have to either push the button, flip the switch, or unjack and rejack, because this now has to be negative. Because my toner and or my hydrators are positive. Okay? So I have to reverse the electricity. And like I said, the machines aren't the same. Some have switches, some have dials, some have just pull the cord out and replug it in. That's why you need to acquaint yourself with the various types of machines. The electrical concept never changes. Okay? The first electrode my client holds has to be a positive charge because my product is negative. Then I'm going to switch that around. Now this has to be negative because this is now positive. So if I spritz the toner, I'm going to go over the face, and this positive electricity is going to push that toner down in. Okay, but we have two things that we have to do because clients, one of their most famous questions to you is, every time I get a facial, I break out. Why? And then you get this little glib answer, well, you were going to break out anyway. It was going to come to the surface. I just brought it up faster. Well, you know what? I don't need your help. I don't need you bringing stuff up out of my skin that, and we all know it wasn't going to pop out in the morning anyway. So as I'm speaking to you, I want to know how many of you wake up with a zit in the morning because we were talking about this. No, it wasn't lurking under there. So how did it happen? It's really quite simple. Anytime you stimulate blood and lymph, which is an integral part of a facial, let's face it, because I'm bringing food, nutrients, water up into the cell so that I get cellular turnover and my skin is healthy. The epidermis doesn't have any of that on its own. You have to bring it up. But if you do not expel the carbon dioxide and cellular waste, it comes out the skin. It doesn't have anywhere else to go. So how do you do that? With a lymph drainage massage. It's a lift press, lift press, lift press. As I'm applying pressure to these key areas, I'm pushing the toxin and the cellular waste out of the skin cells back into the capillaries in the bloodstream where it's carried away, and that helps reduce the cause of breakout. So I have several things going on here. First of all, my skin has a positive pH. My negative current took the positive and made it negative. Okay, my skin has a normal pH of 5. I took it maybe all the way up to 10. So I have to bring it back down, and the toner does that. The toner should have a pH of 3. You can't just pick up any toner and they all have the same pH. They all have the same benefit, and that's not. You need to probably make your own. And what I do is I use witch hazel and lavender hydrosol, and then you add enough fresh lemon juice to bring the pH down to 3. And remember, this isn't something you use every day. You're only using it after the galvanic and or an extraction treatment that you managed to do. But it doesn't happen every day. I don't need that pH every day. I need to adjust the pH of my toner. My toner has a job. The job is basically to close the pores and to keep the pH of the skin at 5 or make it 5, bring it up, bring it down. For instance, when you're doing a chemical exfoliant, the pH is down to 2, 1.5 or 2. Now I need my toner to have a pH of 6 or 7 to bring it back up to 5. So my toner is one of those things that I need to understand, and we discuss that more in the chemistry section. So my thing is, once we have done our extractions and we've rinsed it off, now we have to change polarities, and now I can put on my moisturizer. My skin is now negative. The pores are open, and everything's ready for that positively charged moisturizer. So now I apply my moisturizer, and I use my galvanic roller on positive. Positive pushes positive into the skin. It's pushed in, okay? And it's now into the dermis. The problem with hydrating is not the product. You're going to have clients say, well, now that you're studying skincare, now that you're, an esthetician, what moisturizer do you recommend? There's nothing the matter with the moisturizers we have. We're just not preparing the skin to receive them. My skin is positive. My toner is positive. My moisturizer is positive. Then why do all these companies tell you to cleanse, tone, and then moisturize? That's like you knocking on my door and I say, come in, but I locked the door. I didn't open the door. I closed it and I locked it. Now my product sits on the surface, evaporates off of, because it can't get in. It can't even be absorbed into the epidermis, much less the dermis. But when I'm using my electricity, I push it into the dermis. My client's going to stay hydrated for 2 to 3 full days. She's going to get up and she's going to go, oh my God, I can't believe how hydrated I am. And that's going to be what sets you apart from the technician over here that doesn't understand galvanism. And her treatments are only topical. So when I get up the next morning, everything's SOS, same old stuff. Same old skin. I don't see anything. Yet when this technician who understands galvanism has done my treatment, I wake up and I go, oh my gosh, I'm still hydrated. And so when I rebook an appointment, who am I going to rebook with? I'm going to rebook with the technician where I saw the difference in my skin. Now, when I'm using the positive, it reverses everything about the negative. So, and the book usually refers to these as benefits, but I'm telling you, I'm not calling it a benefit because sometimes it's not a benefit. Sometimes it's a fact that it is a contraindication, but effect is a cause, okay? So it's just the opposite. It has an acidic, okay? And it helps return my acid mantle to my skin. It's positively charged. So when I'm using the galvanic positive, I'm ensuring that the skin is taken out of the alkaline state that my disincrustation lotion put me in, bringing me back into the acidic state where my skin needs to be. Okay, and it's closing the pores on top of what I put in. I pushed this stuff in and I'm closing the pores over the top of it so it can't evaporate out of. Can you see the difference in just procedures? And even at home without electricity, if you just reverse, if you cleanse, you moisturize, and you tone, you will automatically see the difference. Within 2 or 3 days, your skin is going to have responded, and you're going to say, oh my gosh, it works. This is amazing. Well, it's amazing because it's the magnet theory. Positives repel, pluses stay. and negatives, they attach to each other. So once I understand the electrical concept and I understand my tools and how to utilize the positive and negative on my machine, all of my treatments are going to be 10 times more effective than they are without it. So once again, benefits versus effect, because the positive current is the one that neutralizes the IUD and can lead you, to conception. Not necessarily a good thing. I just want to make sure I covered everything. The end. Okay, so there's a lymph drainage video on the YouTube channel, and Dermalogica is amazing. They have an excellent one. In fact, the one that I show you is excerpt from their video. It is so well. It's a combination lymph drainage acupressure, and acupressure is key to helping your client relax and release toxins, okay? And when she gets up, she's going to go, oh my goodness, I feel so good. And that's what I want. I need to feel like I've had a treatment. You know, rumor on the street is when you come out of the gym, you feel good. Exercise energizes you. Now, that's not anything I will ever know. That ain't happening because I'm not going to the gym. Exercise to me is a 4-letter word, not going there. But anybody who exercises know that it regenerates, rejuvenates, and it should be something that's contemplated. So learn the lymph drainage, acupressure, lymph drainage massage, and then I wrote out a very simple procedure. The first thing is always steam and cleanse. That's a given. You don't ever work on a dirty surface. Then you apply your disincrustation lotion, and you use the galvanic negative. Okay, then you do your extractions. Now, you're going, how long do I do this? It's not a matter of timing so much, but not more than a minute. When you think about this, okay, and I'm going to count to 60. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. You can see that anything more than 2 minutes, I'm going to get tired of doing this. I'm ADHD. I don't want to sit here and do this for 5 minutes. But if I tell you I'm giving you a 5-minute treatment, I think I'm paying for a 5-minute treatment. I want to see 5 minutes. Okay, so you don't ever put a time on it. The more difficult, the extractions are going to be a little bit longer, but don't exceed 2 minutes. You don't need to. It's not where it's at. Then you actually do your extractions. Then you rinse the product off of the skin. Then you apply your moisturizer. And in your moisturizer, because it doesn't come off, in your moisturizer, you do your acupressure lymph drainage massage, which involves in the ears, it involves the neck, the meridian points, because these are acupressure halls. These are very important to the well-being and how your client's going to feel when she gets up off the table. Then I'm going to switch out the electricity. I'm going to switch this to a positive current, and I'm going to push the moisturizer through the transdermal barrier down into the dermis, which is where I need my moisture. It's going to evaporate off the epidermis, and I don't need that, okay? Then I'm going to spritz with the toner. Now, the toner is positive, and you're going, well, but my moisturizer is positive, my toner is positive. What's the benefit? It's more like an insurance policy, but that's not the reason for the toner. Remember, I took my pH up. When I rinse, I'm bringing it down. When I apply my moisturizer, but now my toner has to have a pH of 3 because I've got to come back to 5. So the purpose of the toner is to ensure that the skin has a pH of 5. To prevent breakout. Every time I get a facial, I break out. The skin is positive. We took it negative. We have to ensure positivity. Galvanic Positive does that. Okay. So I have a pH of 5. I have to do that. I took the pH up. So the first two, the positive charge and the pH 5, are started in the galvanic positive. Okay. But I have to have that toner to be sure I bring that pH down to 5. So I have to be positively charged, I have to have a pH of 5, and remember my cellular waste. If I do not expel the cellular waste, it's going to come out through the skin, and my client will, not necessarily will, some do, most do, but some don't, experience a little bit of breakout. The first thing they get you on the phone is, I had my facial and I broke out. And it's all of a sudden all your fault. Well, maybe kind of, sort of, but not really. So now another part is the skin. The skin has a natural flora or bacterial content that's on it. And sometimes that flora is compromised. For instance, if you did a microderm, you scratched it off and sucked it away. If you did a chemical exfoliant, you burned them and killed them. Those little flora are no longer active and they need to be replaced. So when you're doing your moisturizer, you add a little bit of probiotic powder if you need to. Not everybody needs to. If I didn't do a chemical exfoliant, if I didn't do a microderm, I don't need an enzyme mask, but everybody will benefit from an enzyme mask. So if you want to do an enzyme mask, you do that, then your hydrator, okay? And then your toner. So once again, understanding how the galvanic works is key to the treatments that you give being more successful than the treatments that are given in the room next to you.